Today, Saraf and I will talk about how different scholars from ancient China perceived music. Our conclusions are mainly based on primary sources such as the Analects, Mozi, Record of Music, Mencius, and Xingzi. We hope that this short presentation will give you a brief survey of the contrasting ideas put forth by different scholars from ancient China. In ancient China, a true scholarly gentleman was expected to master the four arts. These four arts are qing, or a string instrument, qi, or go, shu, or calligraphy, and hua, or painting. The first of the four arts is qing, which is a metaphor for music in general. This shows you the importance of music perceived by the elite class in ancient China. The paintings shown on this and the next slides are from the Ming Dynasty, and they together depict the artistic endeavors of the elite class in ancient China. Shown on this slide are paintings on qing and qi. Here, we're looking at the paintings about shu and hua. Now that we know the importance of music for the elites in ancient China, it is the time to further discuss why music is given such importance and how differently Chinese scholars reacted to those different forms of music. We start with Confucius. Confucius lived in the spring and autumn period, which is characterized by a gradual decline in the power of Zhou kings and a rise of feudal lords and ministers. Warlords in various states were attempting to annex territory by waging war upon each other. So Confucius aimed to restore order to a society at a time when civility and trust were in short supply. And he saw ritual as a means to restore a sense of participation in a community. And this is why he resorted to music. Confucius believed that music is a metaphor for the process of self-cultivation. Analects 3.23 vividly depicts the conversation between Confucius and the grand music master of Lu. He said, "When music first begins, it resounds with a confusing variety of notes. But as it unfolds, these notes are reconciled by means of harmony, brought into tension by means of counterpoint, and finally woven into a seamless whole." This is such an accurate reflection of Confucian understanding of life. Indeed, without education, we're confused. But as we learn the classics, we become aware of the world and can finally live in harmony with others. Confucius also believed that the court music reflects the character of the governing king. He said the Shao music, the court music of sage King Shun, is perfectly beautiful and perfectly good. But Wu music, the court music of King Wu, is only perfectly beautiful but not perfectly good. This is probably because King Wu resorted to force in deposing King Zhou, while Shun obtained the world in a Wu-wei fashion. As we have mentioned before, Confucius believed that ritual is the way to restore harmony in a time marked by social instability. And so, Confucius considers the traditional Zhou music to be good, while the popular music introduced by the nomadic peoples, such as the Zheng music, as bad. Confucius once said that he hates that purple has usurped the place of vermilion, that the tunes of Zheng have been confused with classical music, and that the clever tongue have undermined both state and family. As you might know, vermilion is the color of Zhou dynasty, and purple is a mixed, more modern, and increasingly popular variant. This text manifests Confucius' disappointment when rituals are not properly followed.
Record of Music, also known as Yuezhi, is the 19th chapter of the Book of Rites, which is also known as Liji. The authorship of this book is a matter of debate. However, it is still a very significant literature for the reconstruction of the classic of music and is very relevant to our study. Yuezhi is a collection of discussions on the origin, substance, and characteristics of music and its relationship to government and society. Record of Music repeatedly stresses about the proper relationship between ritual and music. The first two quotes shown in the slide depicts that a balance between music and ritual is very significant in governance. While the differentiation imposed by ritual is needed to allow society to properly function, the harmonizing power of music is needed to ensure that ritual does not lead to estrangement. A well-balanced society should function like a well-balanced piece of music, in which each member maintains its position in such a way as to allow for the harmonious operation of the whole. The third quote presents the importance of ritual, music, administration, and punishment in the context of governance. We can see that music plays the role of harmonizing people's voices in the nation, which is hammered down in Confucianism repeatedly by multiple scholars. Likewise, music also plays the role of assessing people's satisfaction with the rulers. Music conveys the thoughts of the populace, and as such can be used as a barometer by the ruler and his ministers in judging the degree of success achieved by the rule. Confucian scholars also believe that lords with virtue are rewarded with music, which can be seen in our last quote. Mozi or Modi is perhaps the first true Chinese philosopher known to us. He developed systematic analysis and criticisms of his opponent's position and presented an array of arguments in support of his own philosophical views. Although he studied with followers of Confucius in early life, he went on to become a serious critic of Confucianism. As a consequentialist, Mozi cares a lot about utility. He advocated a form of state consequentialism and argued against many of the Confucian doctrines, such as benevolence, filial piety, and ritual practices, as they do not maximize the basic goods for the general public. Mozi is the Mohism text. Interestingly enough, an entire chapter in Mozi is dedicated in arguing against musical performances. The three selected arguments presented on the slide well manifest Mozi's stress on utility. Since musical performances do not yield tangible benefits while requiring heavy taxes and time commitment of both the commoners and the governing elites, Mozi considers music dangerous for the society. Moreover, Mozi presented a more philosophical argument. He believes that music is in nature connected to pleasure, which people should not pursue, and as a result, once the seal of desire for pleasure is broken, music cannot but develop in the direction of furnishing more pleasure. It is also worth mentioning that Mozi did not make a clear distinction between classical and current music. The ancient king's music is no better than the later king's music, except that the former is less sophisticated. The only plausible reason why he identified new music is perhaps just because the new music requires more investment and is thus more problematic. Mencius was a prominent scholar second only to Confucius. As a Confucian scholar living during the Warring States period, Mencius developed Confucian doctrines further. He believed that humans are innately good, but this quality requires cultivation and the right environment to flourish. Being a Confucian scholar, Mencius stresses the importance of filial piety. He believes the most authentic expression of music is in taking joy in serving and following one's older brother. Unlike Confucius, Mencius is more tolerant to new music. He states that the music of today derives from the music of antiquity, and any music is truly enjoyed when the joy is shared with people.
Before the unification of China by the Qing state in 221 BC, which brought to a close the classical period of Chinese philosophy, Confucianism had one last great exponent, Xunzi, whose work represents the highest development of the school in a warring states period. Much of Xunzi's effort is devoted to ardently defending Confucianism against various challenges, notably Mozi's criticism of ritual and music. He argues vigorously that cultural forms are absolutely necessary. A small digression from our topic today. It is worth noting that Xunzi disagrees with Confucius on his idea of wu-wei, or non-action. Xunzi claims that good things are achieved only through wei, or deliberate effort. Xunzi also disagrees with Mencius' belief that human nature is good. Xunzi believes that human nature is actually bad and needs external restraint of ritual. Nevertheless, Xunzi shares Mencius' belief that everyone has the potential to achieve moral perfection. In Xunzi's text, an entire chapter was devoted to provide counterarguments against Mozi and to defend the importance of music. Xunzi, like Confucius and Mencius, believed that ancestral music brings harmony. He argued that when music is performed in ancestral temple and the ruler and ministers, superiors and inferiors listen to it together, none fail to become harmoniously respectful. Xunzi also believed that music has a special role in military, arguing that music is something that one uses to conduct punitive military expeditions abroad. But of course, Xunzi necessarily had to make more philosophical counterarguments against Moism. So he argued that music is a metaphor for joy, which is an unavoidable human disposition. People cannot be without music, and if they feel joy, they must express it with music and dances.
The image shown here is a Dunhuang mural painting from the Middle Tang Dynasty. Surrounded by an orchestra and barefoot upon a carpet, the plump dancer holds a pipa behind her back. The beings playing music here are apsaras from heaven. This reflects the idea among Confucian scholars that music is created by the heavenly beings to reward lords with virtue. We have talked about the views of different Chinese scholars on music. We explored the rationale behind Confucian scholars' support for music and the motivations behind Mozi's condemnation for music. We have seen that although the Confucian scholars disagreed on many concepts, they generally considered music a driving force for social harmony.
Confucius once said, "Find inspiration in the odes, take your place through ritual, and achieve perfection with music." Although we might never get to hear the kind of music from Confucius' times, we sure can find relief and inspiration from music. Thank you so very much.